This is a movie that shatters one's worldview. Although it is rated restricted, it still does not affect its speed in climbing the hot charts. The director, through the perspective of a housewife, combines a real historical case of a congressional election to unreservedly bring the darkness of Korean politics to the big screen. And the final truth makes countless movie fans drop their jaws. The story takes place on the eve of the 21st general election. At this time, Korea is completely divided into two major camps. On one side is Lee Jae-soon, who has been re-elected for 4 terms. And on the other side is Jong Chan, the most promising political newcomer. Seeing that only 15 days are left until the general election, both groups begin their final sprint. Yeonhong is one of them. To successfully become the politician wife, she helps her husband Jong Chan campaign on the streets during the day and also takes care of the team's food and daily life at night. Just as she is overwhelmed, her daughter suddenly suggests going to her friend Ziwi's house to do homework. Yeonhong agrees without a second thought. After all, too many people live in the house, making it impossible to study peacefully. But what she never expects is that her daughter never returns after leaving. Looking at the pitch-black bedroom, she quickly calls Minjin's friend. However, the other person does not know Ziwi at all. Now, Minjin has been gone for over 20 hours. Yeonhong is very worried about something unexpected happening. After she explains the situation, not only does her husband show no reaction, but the team members also advise H not to call the police. Minjin often runs away from home to go to nightclubs. This time, she might be hiding somewhere else, messing around. It is currently a critical moment for the election. The opponent, Lee Jae-soon, already has high approval ratings. If Minjin suddenly returns after they call the police, they will become a complete laughingstock. This allows Lee Jae-soon to seize the opportunity and make a big deal out of it. Seeing the greedy crowd, Yeonhong gets angry and turns to leave directly. With no other option, she can only search blindly on the streets. But she never finds any trace of her daughter. Early the next morning, she takes Jawi's phone and goes to the police station. She remembers Minjin once mentioned their classmates. They are about the same height. Jawi wears leopard print glasses. She has long legs and her hair is always messy. Also, her father is a civil servant.
보셨어요? 절친하면서요. 직접 보셨거나 통하신 적 있냐고요? 그 자액 하나.
아니요.
At this moment, Yeonhong realizes she has neglected her daughter too much. To speed up the search progress, she actively provides some phone numbers.
우리 애가 예전에 어울리던 애들인데요. 전부 다 질이 나쁜 애들이에요. 혹시나 도움이 될까 싶어서.
Due to Jong Chan's status and position, the police quickly bring the latest report. Last night, only one hit-and-run accident occurs on the outer ring road. But the victim is a male. And he is also from out of town. They also retrieve Minjin's call records. However, they discover that the person Minjin contacts most frequently is not her, but a girl named Miok. Just then, Jong Chan suddenly makes a new discovery.
키는 민지랑 비슷하고 이런 호피무늬 안경 쓰고 다리 길고 머리 항상 헝클어져 있고 이 아빠가 공무원인 사람은 여기 당신이잖아.
They are originally together last night, but as soon as they walk out of the school gate, a white car comes to pick up Minjin. Because the distance is too far, she does not clearly see the driver's gender. She only knows that the two are very familiar. As she speaks, Yeonhong suddenly notices Miok's watch. She remembers very clearly. This watch is a gift someone gave to her husband. Minjin likes it very much after seeing it, so she changes the strap and wears it herself. But not long after moving here, Minjin says this watch is stolen. Because the price of the watch easily arouses suspicion, she does not dare to call the police at that time. Seeing that Miok refuses to admit anything, Yeonhong immediately finds the school teacher. Unexpectedly, She is told that Miok not only has excellent academic performance but also always actively helps classmates. So it is impossible for her to steal other people's things. But Yeonhong firmly believes Miok is related to her daughter's disappearance. She immediately returns home and logs into Minjin's email. She surprisingly discovers over 50,000 unread emails inside. After a night of screening, she finally finds a suspicious person. That is Minjin's homeroom teacher, Sora. On the eve of every exam, she always sends an electronic version of the test paper. This coincidentally matches with Minjin and Miok's improved grades. Yeonhong instantly notices something is wrong. She immediately comes to the school to understand the situation. But just as she walks into the office, the calendar on the desk catches her attention. She sees the date marked on it as precisely the day Minjin disappeared.
제가 이번 달부터 개를 시작했거든요.
Next, Sora takes out her phone and plays a video. At that time, Minjin and Miok are singing with great effort. But what they get in return is their classmates' mockery and teasing. Actually, she already knows about Minjin being isolated. But due to her identity as a teacher, she cannot have too much intervention. Because she is very clear that this not only cannot solve the problem but also will lead to worse results. She also once thinks of letting the parents step in. But she is met with Minjin's strong resistance. In desperation, she can only offer help in terms of studies, so that Minjin does not completely collapse. At this moment, Yeonhong is deeply mired in guilt and cannot extricate herself. She kneels on the ground, pleading bitterly, but the teacher can only provide these clues. On the 5th day of Minjin's disappearance, he is still working hard to canvass for votes. But at this moment, the assistant suddenly receives a phone call. The case is transferred to the Serious Crime Unit. However, before they can celebrate, Yeonhong notices something is wrong. She sees the man's flyers are neatly placed to one side, while her husband's are used as scrap paper.
후보님께서는 따님이 사라진 뒤에도 유세를 강행하시는 이유가 뭡니까? 막 그럴수록 지지율은 더 떨어졌겠네.
우리가 선거 그만두면 좋겠어?
아니, 좀 답답해서 그럽니다. 후보님께서는 따님이 사라진 그 시간에 뭐라고 계셨습니까?
당신 가수한다고 설졌던 때를 생각해. 누구 닮아가지고 우리 애가 이렇게 밖으로 돌까?
Yeonhong can no longer suppress her anger. She directly questions her husband about where he went that night and who he met. Recalling her husband's ruthless tactics over the years, she even suspects her daughter's disappearance is intentional, aiming to gain public sympathy and support. But her husband refuses to explain. Even if she threatens him with divorce, it is useless. At this moment, Yeonhong completely breaks down. She hysterically mocks her husband, completely disregarding the team members in the room. On the 6th day of Minjin's disappearance, a distraught Yeonhong finds the Serious Crime Unit. She wants to see the list of suspects, but they refuse her, citing regulations. Seeing this, Yeonhong immediately steps on the gas and speeds away. This time, she is determined to expose Miok's disguise. However, after the hypnosis officially begins, Miok's answers are exactly the same as before. Meanwhile, her husband tearfully apologizes to all the citizens. In the coming time, he will put aside his campaigning work and fully dedicate himself to finding his daughter. As countless people are moved, her husband's approval rating instantly surpasses his opponent's. But Yeonhong cannot be happy at all. At this moment, she suspects even more that her daughter's disappearance is related to her husband. In order to force the assistant to reveal where Zongjan went that night, she unhesitatingly harmed her palm. But she is told that the person met that night is Lu Zaishun's confidant, Shin Sun Mi. Seeing that the situation is once again at a stalemate, Yeonhong can only place her hopes on the shaman. The shaman uses love as a guide and a pig's soul as a medium to search for Minjin's traces across the mountains and fields. Accompanied by a strong pain, Yeonhong senses a location. She immediately takes the Serious Crime Unit and rushes there. After a search by police dogs, they indeed dig up Minjin's remains nearby. She is wrapped in plastic film, perished. Her body is covered in wounds. Clearly, she suffered inhuman torture before her death. At the funeral, Zongjan cries profusely in front of his colleagues and the media. His approval rating therefore gains an overwhelming advantage, making his election as a member of parliament basically a certainty. This also causes the high-ranking officials, who were originally watching coldly, to actively help investigate the culprit who eliminated Min-jin, in order to curry favor with the soon-to-be appointed Zongjan. The police even find a witness. According to the old woman's recollection, on the night of the incident, she sees a girl covered in blood. When they learn the girl wears a school uniform and has short hair, the serious crime unit immediately brings Miok to the interrogation room. After the forensic team's examination confirms, there are indeed traces of Min-jin's blood on her shoes. However, Miok remains very calm. 1 month ago, she and Min-jin almost get hit by a car while crossing the street. Min-jin scrapes her knee while dodging. The bloodstains are left at that time. The forensic report also confirms her explanation. Yeonhong still cannot accept this result. But just then, the girl's father, the driver, suddenly walked in.
우리 딸은 범인이 아닙니다.
Recalling what Miok said before, Yeonhong becomes even more suspicious that the father and daughter are the murderers who eliminated Min-jin.
당신 딸이 우리 남편을 똥이라고 했어. 어? 자기 아빠가 운전하는 차 뒷자리에 똥이 잔뜩 실린 똥차라고 했다고. 애가 왜 그런 얘기 했을까, 형사님? 제 기사가 집에서 그런 얘기 했기 때문 아니야? 그래도 우리 집에 와서 그렇게 착한 척을 했어?
She struggles with all her might to break free. Unexpectedly, the man tells her not to move, as moving will cause more severe injury. Just as Yeonhong despairs, a figure suddenly pounces from nearby. When she wakes up again, she is already lying in a hospital bed. Identity verification confirms the man is a subordinate of the leader. Fortunately, he has been secretly having people follow Yeonhong. This prevents the opponent from succeeding. To prevent this from happening again, he specifically prepares another stun gun. Seeing her husband's concern, Yeonhong's emotional barrier instantly melts away. But she still cannot overcome the immense pain of losing her daughter. Until this day, she discovers a new clue in a video filmed by Sora. A fat girl in the crowd stands out. She not only refrains from throwing flour but also cheers for Min-jin and the other person. Yeonhong immediately rushes to the school to understand the situation. The fat girl is indeed very familiar with Min-jin and the other person. She is very certain that Miok and her father are not the murderers. But just then, her school uniform button suddenly pops open. Yeonhong instantly senses something is wrong. After she lifts the jacket, the fat girl is clearly wearing Miok's school uniform. No wonder the police previously only found her daughter's bloodstains on the shoes. Subsequently, Yeonhong arrives at an abandoned warehouse. According to the fat girl, this is Min-jin and Miok's secret base. Looking at the dense photos on the wall, Yeonhong completely breaks down at this moment. She discovers that her daughter's world has no parents at all. She frantically destroys everything in the room. It is as if this can make time return to the beginning. But just as Yeonhong prepares to smash the drum, a plastic bag falls out from underneath. After opening it, it is filled with cash. Clearly, Miok and Min-jin's deaths are connected. Yeonhong quickly searches around the house for clues. Unexpectedly, she discovers a hit-and-run vehicle in the bushes. Just then, Miok also returns. An enraged Yeonhong directly dumps the money in front of her. Seeing that everything is exposed, Miok finally stops hiding. All of this dates back several years. At that time, the school often organizes parent-child activities. As an official, he is greatly envied. Over time, the classmates also start to isolate Min-jin. They even install razor blades in her locker. Although her hands are covered in cuts, she can only choose to silently endure it so that her classmates do not dislike her even more. It is from this moment that Miok feels the same sense of loneliness in Min-jin. Thus, The two become each other's support. The warehouse then becomes their secret base. Although it is dilapidated, it is filled with their laughter. Until this day, Min-jin suddenly discovers that her father and the teacher's relationship seems unusual. So, she buys a small gift containing a pinhole camera. She gives it to Sora, and that very night, incredible footage is captured. Min-jin never expects her father is actually a betrayer. But she does not tell her mother. Instead, she blackmails Sora with this. She constantly coerces her to reveal the exam questions. Then she compensates her mother with excellent grades. 2 years pass in a flash. As she is about to study abroad, Min-jin worries about Miok, so she thinks about taking her along. But Miok's father is only a driver. He is unable to pay the high fees. In desperation, Min-jin comes up with a bold idea. That is to make Sora pay for it. The plan originally proceeds very smoothly. But just as Min-jin withdraws the money, a car directly crashes into her. Then the driver controls the car to repeatedly cause collision until Min-jin stops breathing. Only then does the driver get out of the car to take photos. Meanwhile, Miok uses the same method to run him over. After she handles the scene, she leaves with Min-jin's remains. Coincidentally, just after she leaves, a car runs over the man, thus creating the illusion of a hit and run. Miok guesses that Sora is the man's employer. She is powerless to avenge Min-jin. Just then, Yeonhong opens the man's phone. But the employer's phone number makes her completely despair. But she does not directly seek revenge on the employer. Instead, she meticulously prepares a large table of delicious food to celebrate her husband's successful election as a congressman. After all the procedures are completed, only then does she arrange to meet the employer under the guise of handing over a task. After arriving at the agreed location, Yeonhong directly rushes forward and stuns the employer with electricity. And this person is none other than her husband, with whom she lives day and night. After wrapping her husband with plastic film, Yeonhong directly pours the bag of cash onto his head. Then she further takes out the man's phone. When he sees the photos of his daughter's murder, he is first stunned, and immediately after, self-blame and guilt surge into his heart like towering waves. Only then does he finally understand that the person Sora makes him hire a killer to deal with turns out to be Min-jin. Yeonhong holds a stick and furiously vents the hatred in her heart. Although she already guesses this is all Sora's conspiracy, her husband is the source of all this. Immediately after, Yeonhong again wraps her husband's head with a plastic bag. But she does not intend to kill her husband. Instead, she makes him remember this suffocating pain. At the end of the film, Yeonhong publishes the video recorded in the car online. At this moment, the peak he climbed to throughout his life completely becomes his execution platform. Sora is expelled from school and is also blacklisted by the education sector. Although the film is called No Secrets, in reality, everyone in the drama is in pain. The husband who kills his own daughter after being deceived. The wife who ignores her daughter to become a politician wife. The daughter who learns of her father's affair. Miok, who witnesses her best friend's death. Sora, who breaks up another's family and is threatened. They all have that pain in their hearts and they all have their own secrets. However, when all the secrets are revealed, the tragedy officially begins.